A particular telltale sign of this comfort is that in writing workshops, certain kinds of characterizations often evoked and praised, those of Anton Chekhov, Leo Tolstoy, Alice Munro, for example, stand in contrast to certain other kinds of characterizations rarely cited, including many of those to be found in Fyodor Dostoyevsky. Dostoyevsky's greatness is famously difficult to describe. Dostoyevsky's most memorable characters are comically grotesque, sociopathic, demonic, inconsolable, and the techniques he used to characterize them are probably unteachable. Chekhov, speaking for many, thought Dostoyevsky was self-indulgent. Dostoyevsky's work is an ongoing problem for many readers and most graduate writing programs. Dostoyevsky himself had a few winning qualities, and his most disagreeable characters can produce in the reader a feeling of nearly intolerable uneasiness that cannot be rationalized away. I mean this as a praise. One of his translators, David Magarchak, has said that Dostoevsky's political ideas cannot be taken seriously, and politics is only the half of it. Nor can Dostoevsky's fiction be reduced to sensible or simple lessons or simple lessons about craft or style or even ethics. In some fundamental way, he is beyond all of that. An immediately recognizable feature of Dostoevsky's characters happened to be their temperamental compulsion to create large-scale scenes, like the drunk Marmeladov in Crime and Punishment, like the drunk Marmeladov in Crime and Punishment. They are always grabbing someone by the lapel and breathing hotly into that person's face, asking asking for a word or two that may turn into a deranged monologue that lasts for the rest of the chapter or beyond. There is a collapse of narrative distance in Dostoevsky, what the film critic and scriptwriter George Stolz calls in another context story distance, a longitudinal perspective of events that allows us to judge those events disinterestedly. disinterestedly. This collapse of distance gives the reader the frequent impression that scenes in Dostoevsky's fiction are happening in some kind of dramatic location, so close to you that you can't remove yourself from the scene. Reading Dostoevsky is like sitting in the front row of a theater where the actor's spit lands on your face. Often Dostoevsky's scenes have the quality of being both over-compressed with information and ragtag in shape, with a quasi-operatic dramatic intensity set at the highest possible limit, triple forte, close to frenzy. The scenes created in this manner boil over hellishly and comically. Everyone's composure breaks down or melts in the general heat. Climaxes are achieved before their proper build-up, and characters are regularly too voluble or at crucial moments too inarticulate. Words fail them, eloquence betrays them, or hits the ear-piercingly wrong note. One never has the impression that le mot juste in the right context will solve everything. Instead of articulation, there is frenzied, superheated speechifying. Both heaven and earth somehow become implicated. Human alone seems incapable of setting events of this colossal magnitude into motion, with the result that the human soul, the central player in these cosmic dramas, becomes as palpable as a kitchen knife. Antagonists in Dostoevsky are characterized first and foremost by their bad manners and by the outward manifestations of their inability to control themselves and to keep their souls in check. Only secondarily are they made up of the flesh. If we are looking for the soul, watch for bad manners, which are definitive. Narrative events and personal behaviors in these novels achieve such high magnification that they feel cosmic even when the devil is safely offstage. The instability of his characters, Stavrohin in The Demons, Raskolnikov in Crime and Punishment, and Smerdyakov in The Brothers Karamazov, among many others, is such that they cannot carry on normal conversations or behaviors, even when their lives might depend on their ability to do so. Besides, they have no interest in the everyday. Furthermore, they are without charm, and their wit, if they have any, tends to be without humor and takes the form of sniveling, meanness, or brutal sarcasm. Dostoyevsky's characters have no access to the genteel habits of polite society. What politeness they may have melts away in the tumult of their moods, which invariably turns into passions. They lack usable charm. The whole point of pathology in Dostoevsky's novels has to do with its colossal size and inestimable nature. In this respect alone, it resembles holiness. The characters are generously, if not articulately, rude, an offense in the eye of the reader and society, and able to be dismissible if the news they bring, psychological, spiritual, political, weren't so important to the outcome of human society. They are the John the Baptists of wayward intellect and obsessive pathology, operating in the lower depths where the sleepless, deformed, brilliant intelligence is busily at work hashing plots that will change the course of history for the rest of us. If a reader wanted to discover in literature the sources and mechanics of terrorism, for example, their sense of exclusion and mania and what Friedrich Nietzsche calls resentment, few authors would be as helpful in the endeavor as Dostoevsky. He might as well be the world's foremost psychologist on the rage of the outsider, whose good ideas go psychopathological out of alignment. He is the expert on the man who throws stones with no particular target in mind, the starving man who sets fire to the bakery. Ongoing readerly discomfort from the Dostoevskian protagonist is an endlessly renewable resource. In my experience, it is almost never absent in the later novels. If the balance between demons and angels cannot find its proper pivot point, the size of the frame around the materials is also always deferred. How does one put these events in perspective? The very absence of perspective often appears to be exactly the point, particularly in The Devils and The Brothers Karamazov, and it was an issue that caused Dostoevsky himself some problems in his final novel, in his efforts to refute Ivan's barren rationalism. The Dostoevskian protagonist is often busy creating scenes. By creating scenes, I am describing not a technique in writing, but a form of behavior. The first definition of scene creation is the almost ritualistic, ritualistic inability to follow the conventions of good manners. If good manners comprise the code of behavior that renders our behavior acceptable and thus almost invisibly in polite society, bad manners makes us visible for good or ill. We become a spectacle. Bad manners put us on the stage, and the stage, as every writer knows, is what is required for dramatic force. This leads to my second way of thinking about creating scenes. We create a scene when we forcibly illustrate our needs to be visible to others, often in the service of a wish or a demand that we seek to impose. Creating a scene is thus the staging of a desire. No wonder genteel people fear scenes, even those involve getting down on one knee in a restaurant.